Acha, Farhat, thanks to all of you, our distinguished panelists, for participating in a very, I think, timely seminar on the subject. I think when we were deciding the topic of the seminar, me and Farhat were discussing that what has to be the topic. So we concluded that three variables are critical. One is the prescription which was developed somewhere in 2001 for the Afghanistan has proven disaster or whatsoever. Second, was obviously the Taliban 2, but I personally believe whether it's a Taliban 1, Taliban 2, good Taliban, bad Taliban, Pakistan Taliban, Afghanistan Taliban, Taliban is the Taliban. Their approach and strategy may be different, but the basic principles which govern are the same. And third, obviously, the impact on the region, particularly in Pakistan. So these three variables were critical. That's why we choose this topic. Secondly, from the historical perspective, we see that there were three possibilities for Afghanistan on the withdrawal of US troops. One, negotiated settlement. Second, civil war. And third, takeover of the Taliban takeover to Kabul or Afghanistan. Obviously, we are witnessed to the third options. And in any of the case, Taliban had to play the most important role. I was in the morning, I was just trying to recapture particularly the various events and the happenings which occurred particularly in the last 15 years. Because today, what we are witnessed, most of the things happened since 2005. In January 2005 till August 2006, and I documented those events. There was a series of Afghanistan endured suicides. The Taliban insurgents resurgence and corresponded with the rise in anti-American and anti-Western sentiments among Afghans. Those feelings were further nurtured by the sluggish pace of reconstructions, allegations of prisoners about US detention centers, widespread corruption in Afghan government, and civilian casualties caused by US and NATO forces. In 2006, NATO took a command of the war to give an international brand to the war instead of a US brand. Then top insurgent leaders remained at large, and many of them moved towards the tribal region of Pakistan. And then that was the start of the US drone strategy towards, and Pakistan foreign policy at that period of time was not much clear. On February 17, 2009, the US approved additional 17,000 troops in addition to 36,000 US troops, which were already existing over there, and 32,000 US troops of NATO, 32,000 US troops of NATO and 36,000 of the US troops. And subsequently, a new move occurred. Obama took a rare step of removing General David with General McChrystal, who was brought into the implement a new strategy modeled after the surge of strategy in Iraq, and one in which US force would focus on protecting the population from insurgents rather than simply trying to kill large number of militants. The strategy also involved trying to persuade enemy fighters to defect and ultimately encouraging the reconciliation between the Karzai government and the Taliban leaders. And accordingly, the then President Karzai announced that he would be attempt to reconcile the Taliban. Later Pakistan offered Afghan peace talks, and obviously Mullah Abdul Ghani Bardar, which was captured by Pakistan, and was considered to be a reconciliation person among the Taliban instead of a hardliner. The capture of Kabul, in addition to other factors, reflects that just like Iran and Afghanistan, the more focus was on recruiting, training, and militant solution instead of building the institution in Afghanistan. Taliban 2 winning strategy, I think the revolutionary movement deeply opposed to the Afghan tribal system, because they talk about Islamic Emirates instead of a tribal-based Afghanistan. Secondly, their propaganda and intelligence are efficient, and local autonomy of their commanders allow them for the flexibility and the cohesion. They have made clever use of ethnic tensions, rejections of foreign forces by Afghan people, and lack of local administration to gain the support of the masses. I believe that I was just reading through in the morning the cigar report, in which it has been reflected about 83 billion of US dollar has been invested on the training of or building the Afghan forces. But I believe that Pentagon has not accounted for whether these Afghan 300,000 Afghan forces are willing to die for their government or not. So that was a big question. I believe that the regional impact and regional stability depends upon the few factors. One is the sovereignty concerns, other is the security interest, geopolitical dynamics, cross-border ties, and the connectivity and the trade. We look forward for the peaceful Afghanistan and a conducive ties between Afghanistan and Pakistan for a regional stability and peace and prosperity. Thank you. And I believe that all of our distinguished panelists has advocated and looking forward a positive perspective of Afghanistan instead of a bleak picture of Afghanistan. And I think in a couple of months we will be able to see what will be the governance system of Afghanistan, and how they govern their foreign policy and the local governance system for the people of Afghanistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rashid Aftabsq. You have pointed out several, listed several interest and points, factors. One of the most important point is Afghans are actually they are the ones who need to understand the destiny and take the destiny in their own hands and understand themselves first, and then look after various other factors and look outside Afghanistan. Thank you so much, everybody, for being part of our webinar. Our chief guest, thank you so much for your presence. You always support us, encourage us, and your presence at such an important committee reflecting the people's voice there at the National Assembly and of course at the Parliament level. Thank you so much for your presence and work that you've been doing. Ambassador Abdul Basit, thank you so much for your remarks and your insight as well. Hussain Sheikh, Professor Saab, thank you so much for your presence. Always an honor to hear from you. Dr. Amna Mahmood, thank you so much, ma'am, for your presence as well. Dr. Aisha, thank you so much for your presence and always your guidance, and your partnership is so valuable for us. And of course, Dr. Oktay, for your presence and your insights. And of course, finally, Dr. Rashid Aftabsq, for your guidance and for your support and for your partnerships. This is always a valuable insight, and of course, making a lot of clarity in what the mess is happening there in Afghanistan, in the region. I hope that we'll all be able to help our Afghan brothers and sisters, especially in this difficult time. And I hope that this webinar can help the students of faculties of international relations to make much of the clarity of what has happened so far over the years. Thank you so much, those people who are joining us online. I am so grateful. We cannot offer you chai and samosas from Pakistan, but we can of course at the end of the seminar, and when it's hybrid, it's always love to have a lot of conversation. Thank you so much, everybody, for your presence. You can watch this again on Facebook. We are just shared it on live on Facebook as well. You can watch it again. And if any questions, you can post us, email us anytime, and we will share insights from our faculties and the people around. Thank you so much.